Local blogger, attorney, and preservationist Peter Brackney explores the intriguing backstories of hidden bluegrass treasures in his new book, Lost Lexington, Kentucky. And Peter Brackney is with us on the phone. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks, Suzanne.
Lexington was once known as the Athens of the West. Why is that?
Well, of course, the West at one time was Kentucky. We were the frontier. And with Transylvania University being in Lexington, we were really a cultural capital for the West, a great place of thought, advances in medicine, science, as well as the cultural resources that would come with having an educational institution like Transylvania here, with architecture and all of the arts.
What interested you in these lost hidden treasures of history?
Well, I'm a preservationist. I think that the historic buildings that we have tell the community story, and when we lose one of those buildings, we lose part of our community's identity. And I think that telling some of those stories and some of the backstories of what we've lost hopefully can encourage the preservation of those buildings that we still have.
Let's talk about some of these things. The works of renowned architect John McMurtry were once numerous around town, but some of those finest examples are gone. Talk about him.
Well, John McMurtry was a Lexington architect and builder from the mid to the late 1800s. I'm particularly partial to Mr. McMurtry as an architect. The house that I grew up in on the West Short Street in the historic western suburb, the newest part of that home was built in 1843, and it was built by Mr. McMurtry. So I've always had a fondness for Mr. McMurtry. It's a federal-style home, and some of his works are simply beautiful. Loudon House, which remains standing, is a good example of that in North Lexington. One of the buildings that I profiled was the sister building to Loudon House, which was Ingleside, which was off of South Broadway. And it was just a beautiful, beautiful home, opulent to the ends, and the lost portion of that was ultimately when the family sold the property off, it began to be subdivided. Eventually, a mobile home park moved in, and ultimately that was expanded, and the mansion was demolished.
Demolished for a mobile home park.
Yes.
Tell us about the famous Phoenix Hotel.
You really cannot know any Lexington history without running into the Phoenix Hotel. The Phoenix Hotel was at the heart of downtown. It was where the so-called smoke-filled rooms would have been, where decisions about Lexington and Kentucky's future would have occurred. This is where your social events would have occurred, your community meetings. There was where the city's life took place. And it was really begun in the late 1700s, originally as Postlethwaite's Tavern. Through a number of fires, it changed and morphed. At one time, it was a total loss, and after that total loss from fire, the hotel was rebuilt, and at that time, it was renamed the Phoenix Hotel, rising, of course, from the ashes of the old hotel, and it was ultimately demolished to make way for a skyscraper that was never constructed.
Speaking of construction, the Center Point block has been made and unmade so many times that its original tenants are unknown to natives now. So tell us about that.
Well, the Center Point block, of course, is right across the street from Phoenix Park, which is the surface park that is where the Phoenix Hotel was located. And right now, I guess you could call it Center Pit. It's a large hole in the ground in downtown Lexington, and it's actually featured on the cover of the book. I'm not sure where things stand. I know that there are some decisions being made on bonds being sold to help with some of the financing for the project. But I know that there have been some tenants announced as well. That's been in the media. But we'll see what rises at Centerpoint.
Hopefully it will not remain a big pit.
That's right. We've got the Breeders' Cup coming in next year. We'd really like to be able to have the best foot forward here in Lexington for that event.
Absolutely. And we've just talked about some of the many hidden treasures. We're just about out of time. But first, tell us about your blog.
Well, I started the Kentuckian about 5 years ago, and I've explored different parts of the Commonwealth, and kind of all started after I took my last law school exam, looking for a little reprieve, and I just got in the car and started driving with no destination, and discovered and rekindled a love of history, and started sharing it on a blog with photographs and thoughts and a little bit of historical research, and it's been a lot of fun.
And it's Kentuckian, right?
Kentuckian, KAINTUCKEEAN.com.
All right.
And that's of course the old way of spelling Kentucky.
I did not know that.
Well, it was not the official way ever, but of course there was an old time back when we didn't really have Daniel Webster telling us how to spell things.
Peter Brackney is author of Lost Lexington, Kentucky.